1,000 years of sleep lies between the sheets of history, but what lies beneath? The wind curls like a silk ribbon through the boughs of old oaks as the sky fades into the blue velvet of twilight. Somewhere, far away, a bell tolls, slow, deliberate, like a sigh of time itself. You hear it not with your ears but with your bones. It settles into your ribs like dust, like memory. And in that soft collapse of dusk into night, one question begins to flicker in your mind like a candle behind frosted glass. Did people in the past sleep naked? Or was the world once too prim, too proper, too veiled in modesty, even in the sanctity of dreams? You're not alone in your curiosity. But before we journey deeper into the hush of history's bedchambers, I want you to do something. Tell me, where in the world are you listening from tonight, and what time is it? Drop it in the comments below, not for the algorithm, not for vanity, but because I want to know. You see, across time and cultures, sleep connects us all. From the palaces of Versailles to a thatched cottage in 9th century Mercia, someone somewhere has always been climbing into bed, eyes heavy with the weight of their day, just as you are now. So now that you're here, really here, I want you to do one last thing before we begin. Get comfortable. Loosen your limbs, nestle into your sheets. Maybe you've brought a glass of water to your bedside, or perhaps the soft hum of a fan is already setting the rhythm of your descent into sleep. Let the room dim, let your shoulders fall, let your breath slow, just a little. Now close your eyes. You're not in your bedroom anymore. You're standing in a narrow corridor lit only by the glow of oil lamps. The walls are stone, cool to the touch, and echo softly with your steps. There is a heavy door ahead, old, oaken, iron-bound. No signs, no locks, only a brass handle, worn smooth by centuries of use. You reach for it. It opens easily. Beyond it, time itself. And so begins your journey, one not through mere facts or timelines, but through the scent of linen sheets hung by firelight, the creak of floorboards beneath slippered feet, the quiet intimacy of night in another era. You step inside. The first room is dim, rich with the scent of wax and wool. It's 1623, England. You're in a modest country home, timbered and humble, with the weight of damp air pressed into its beams. A fire glows low in the hearth, and a straw mattress waits for you in the corner of the room, covered in hand-woven sheets. But you do not lie down yet. Instead, you notice her. A woman, your host perhaps, leans over a chest. She pulls out a simple linen shift, white and long-sleeved. She lifts it to the firelight, checking for tears. Satisfied, she slips it over her head. It is not thick, but it is full length. It protects her from the draught, from bugs, from cold, and perhaps from being seen. The notion of modesty is stitched into every fibre. You learn something then. In this century, sleeping naked is not common, at least not among the decent. Nightwear, even for the poor, serves many roles: protection, privacy, and cleanliness. Bodies were rarely washed fully, and the sheets even less so. A linen shift was easier to launder than a feather-stuffed mattress or heavy woolen coverlet. Outside the house, the stars bloom. Inside, the fire dwindles. The woman's husband appears. He too wears a long shirt, knee-length, undyed, simple. He kisses her cheek. They lie down side by side. Their sleepwear touches, but not their skin. That is for other moments, not these. They do not sleep naked. Not here. Not now. But was it always this way? You look around the room one last time. The walls flicker with the last gasps of firelight, and the couple is already drifting away, breathing slow and deep. You step back through the door, and when it closes, you're somewhere else. You see, history is not a monolith. The story of sleep is not one story. It is hundreds, thousands. Every era, every climate, every class, every belief system, each had their own idea of what was proper, what was practical, and what was permitted when the candles went out. In some places, the naked body was seen as pure, a return to something Edenic, sacred even. In others it was shameful, weak, or simply impractical. Sometimes it was all these things at once. You will see all of it. You will walk through time as night unfolds again and again, from the marble chambers of ancient Rome to the icy fjords of medieval Norway, to the cramped tenements of industrial London and the silken sheets of a 1920s Parisian salon. You will hear the whispers of etiquette books and the sighs of lovers. You will smell the perfume of 18th century boudoir and the sweat of 14-hour days under the Victorian soot. You'll see how the body was hidden, or not, how the mind was soothed, or not, and how modesty, always, danced in the shadows of the sleeping room. Each part of this journey will guide you deeper into understanding, not just of what people wore to bed, but of who they believed they were when no one was watching. You'll find stories embroidered into nightcaps, silence folded into lace, shame, sensuality, safety, all waiting beneath the covers. So stay with me. Let sleep take its slow shape around you, and in the next part we'll drift back, farther still, to a time where the boundaries of night and day blurred into something strange and sacred. We'll go to ancient Rome, and there you may be surprised to find how many dreamt entirely bare. You step through the next door and find yourself surrounded by warmth, not just the kind that glows from torches set into marble walls, but something deeper, heavier, the air rich with oil and incense, cloves, smoke and sweat. You are in Rome now, not the crumbling ruins of postcards and textbooks, but the living, pulsing Rome of the first century, the eternal city when it truly believed itself to be eternal. The streets outside are quiet, but not asleep. No city this alive truly rests. And in the peristyle garden beyond the columns, a fountain murmurs softly as you pass beneath high, coffered ceilings, the marble cool beneath your bare feet. The domus is large, but not ostentatious. You recognise the balance between wealth and restraint, the kind favoured by senators, the kind that whispers authority without the noise of vanity. You're no guest tonight, but something more comfortable, more unnoticed. You walk freely through the corridors, the flicker of oil lamps catching the mosaics underfoot. Neptune rising from waves, a peacock caught mid-strut, Diana with her bow drawn. Ahead, a bedroom waits, open to the garden by a wide doorway hung with gauzy curtains stirred by the breeze. Inside, the bed is not humble, it is large, richly carved, the wood dark and glossed with age. There is no mattress as you know it, but a firm frame layered with wool and linen, thick and soft, smelling faintly of bay leaves and rosewater. Reclining there is a man, perhaps 40, perhaps older. He's not wearing a thing. His skin is golden from sun and olive oil, the softness of leisure in his limbs. Beside him is a woman, equally bare, her hair pinned loosely, a bronze mirror resting on the floor near her sandals. Here, in this room, nudity is not scandalous. It is not even remarkable. In fact, you are struck by the absence of shame. Among the Romans, the naked body holds a certain practicality, even reverence. They bathe in public, recline at feasts with limbs tangled in robes that fall open easily. The idea of undressing for bed is not dramatic, it is expected. Linen, though present, is often for show, for the reception of guests or for chillier months. In summer, they abandon it freely. The Romans believed in fresh air and freedom of the flesh. Clothing was a matter of public identity, of rank and status and display. In the privacy of one's bedroom, away from the forum and its eyes, there was no need to perform. You hear a servant outside the room, young perhaps, carrying a small amphora of wine. He calls out softly, not knocking, not peeking in. There is no urgency. He knows they may be asleep or simply unwilling to be disturbed. But the awareness of others is not threatening here. There is an ease between bodies and the spaces they inhabit, a culture in which modesty is not measured in layers but in intent. The man on the bed shifts slightly, reaching for a woolen throw that lies at his feet. He does not drape it over himself, but folds it beneath his head. The air is warm, the shutters open to the night breeze. He's not afraid of being seen. In fact, visibility is part of the Roman philosophy. The body is public in life and even more so in death, where portraits, busts and funeral masks preserve the self. To cover unnecessarily, especially in private, might seem foolish. And yet, not everyone in this city would have the privilege of sleeping so freely. In the insulae, the tenement blocks of the poor, space is cramped and shared. Privacy is fleeting. Families, neighbours, lovers and strangers often sleep side by side on pallets, benches or floors. In such places, nightwear becomes as much about boundaries as it is about warmth. A simple tunic might serve as day clothes and nightwear in one. The poor do not strip for comfort. They are already stripped by circumstance. For them, The modesty of fabric is not cultural but logistical. Still, in both places, marble villa and wooden tenement, the notion of designated sleepwear does not fully exist. There is no cultural standard as we might recognise it centuries later. The concept of the nightgown has not yet taken hold. To sleep naked is not remarkable. It is just another expression of Roman normalcy, part of a world in which the body and all its needs are part of the daily rhythm, not shameful interruptions of it. Somewhere in the distance a rooster crows, though it is still hours from dawn. The city is never truly silent, even at night. Drunken footsteps echo on cobbles. A dog barks once sharply, then goes quiet. The couple on the bed do not stir. Their breath is even, their limbs loose. You turn, stepping through another doorway, leaving behind the olive groves and mosaic floors, carrying with you the scent of warm skin and lamp oil. Already the Roman world begins to fade. The certainty of its place in history is unshaken, but its customs have been set aside, slowly eroded by new ideals, colder climates, stricter codes. Ahead, the next world waits, one of colder stones and colder beds, the Middle Ages, and there, nakedness, once so effortless, will become something else entirely. Stone presses cold against your feet now. The floor here is uneven, scattered with straw that dulls the echo of your steps. The air smells of hearth smoke, tallow, damp wool, and something older, something like time left too long in the dark. You've crossed into another century. The sensual comfort of Rome is gone. So too is its casual acceptance of the naked form. This is the medieval world now, the early Middle Ages, and here the body is no longer a thing of light and openness. It is a thing to be guarded. The room you stand in is humble. Its walls are thick with wattle and daub, the plaster cracked in places revealing the ribcage of the house beneath. Above, rough-hewn beams cradle a thatched roof. There is one small window, shuttered tightly, and one hearth, its fire nearly out. You hear the wind press against the outside walls, a moan drawn through the trees and narrow lanes beyond. The night is cold. This is northern Europe, perhaps England or the Frankish countryside. The hour is late. You sense the village beyond is sleeping, if uneasily. In the corner of the room lies a bed, or what passes for one. A wooden frame, low to the ground, filled with straw and covered with coarse woolen blankets. Lying within it are two figures, husband and wife, turned away from each other beneath the heavy weight of sleep and linen. Their nightclothes are thick and plain. The man wears a long tunic, undyed and scratchy. The woman, a heavier chemise, once white but now the colour of ash. Their caps, simple and tightly bound, conceal their hair. Nothing of the body shows, nothing touches the air. Here, to sleep without clothing would be unthinkable. Not only because of the cold, though the cold is constant and biting, but because the unclothed body is now deeply entwined with the idea of sin. The teachings of the church are woven into every corner of the home, every hour of the day, and certainly into the night. A naked body, even in the dark, is vulnerable not just to the elements, but to the gaze of angels, demons, and God himself. To be caught unprepared, uncovered, in the case of sudden death or visitation. It is more than indecent, it is spiritually perilous. In many places sermons have begun to mention this directly. Priests remind their congregants to sleep clothed, to guard themselves in all states, to protect their dignity even in dreams. A sleeping body, they warn, is still seen, and not just by your spouse. The fear is not only of exposure but of temptation, of inviting the devil into the softness of slumber. Even the architecture reflects this caution. Bedrooms are shared, privacy is rare. In a noble household you might share your space with servants. In a peasant cottage, your children lie close on a pallet or even in your own bed. The idea of sleeping naked would not be just improper, it would be logistically awkward, socially shameful, even dangerous to one's reputation. Decency is armour, even in rest. Still, you notice subtle signs that the body has not been fully forgotten. The woman's chemise is embroidered faintly at the collar, a soft red thread curling into a cross. A charm hangs above the bed, a simple carving of St. Brigid, protector of homes. The man shifts in his sleep, one leg emerging slightly from the covers, revealing that his feet are bare. Beneath all the fear and fabric, they are still human. They still remember what it is to feel, to desire comfort. But those feelings must be softened now, dulled. made to fit within the strict corners of the world they inhabit. In richer homes, sleepwear may be finer but no more revealing. Nobles wear soft linens dyed and embroidered, sometimes perfumed. But these two are modest, shapeless, meant to preserve the dignity of the sleeper and the tone of the household. Women wear coifs or wimples binding their hair even at rest. Men may wear hose beneath their gowns in colder months. Warmth is vital, yes, but so is the maintenance of an image, even in one's most vulnerable hours. And yet the rigidity of these customs is not entirely universal. In remote villages or warmer seasons, the poorest of the poor may have no dedicated sleepwear at all. They sleep in what they wear all day, or in nothing when clothing is scarce. For them, shame is a luxury, modesty a privilege. Their lives are bound by survival more than propriety. But their choices are not celebrated, not emulated. The naked sleeper, in this time, is not free. They are exposed. You watch the couple shift again, unconsciously drawing closer to each other, as if seeking heat. Their bodies touch only lightly, through layers of wool and linen, but the movement is familiar. Even in this time of modesty, the instinct for warmth, for nearness, remains. The medieval world may be cloaked in fear, but it is still a world of people, and people do not forget what it means to seek comfort. The fire flickers low. Outside, an owl cries into the dark. The wind presses harder against the shutter. Within the bed, the sleepers are still, their breath soft and even. The layers of cloth are many, but within them the body still dreams. You turn again, stepping into the next passage of time. The heavy air of the medieval world follows you, briefly clinging to your skin like wool. But ahead, the firelight brightens, and a strange scent touches your nose. Tobacco, powdered wigwax, citrus and lavender. You're stepping into a different century now, one of ceremony, excess, and contradiction. You're heading into the Enlightenment, and there, sleep, and what one wore to bed, was becoming something entirely more complex. The air sharpens as you cross the threshold. The world ahead is brighter, busier. Candles burn in clusters across polished surfaces, flames doubled in the sheen of gilded mirrors. You have arrived in the 18th century, into a room layered with satin, ceremony and scent. The hush of the medieval night is replaced by the subtle crackle of wax, the brush of slippers across parquet, the rustle of embroidered gowns. You're not in a cottage now, but in a chambre, a bedchamber of French design, elegant and designed as much for display as for rest. The ceilings are high. The walls are dressed in silk tapestries, chinoiserie birds caught mid-flight among curling clouds and plum blossoms. The bed is immense, elevated like a throne, draped with brocade and tasselled trim. This is not a place for simple sleeping. It is a theatre, and every night the curtain rises. The lady of the house is not alone in preparing for bed. Her maid is present, helping her out of the towering structure of her day dress, each layer peeled away in practiced motions. Stays loosen, skirts are folded, undersleeves removed. The process is not intimate, it is ritual. Even in private there are steps, sequences, proprieties to observe. Nightwear is no longer merely about coverage, it is an extension of identity. You observe her closely. She does not sleep naked. She does not even seem to consider it. Instead, she slips into a night rail, a long, ruffled linen gown, pale and voluminous. Its sleeves are cinched at the wrists, its collar edged in delicate lace. Over this, she wraps a bed jacket lined in fur, though it is not winter. Her head is carefully wrapped in a nightcap, white, soft, tied with ribbon. Hair must be protected, dressed, preserved. Modesty is important, but control is paramount. For the elite in this era, every part of the body is groomed and directed, even in sleep. To be naked in bed is not simply improper, it is almost unimaginable. A body exposed to night air was thought to invite illness, cold humours, imbalanced phlegm. To be fully uncovered was seen as medically foolish and morally ambiguous. And yet, paradoxically, this same century simmers with sensuality. Art, literature and fashion dance constantly around the edge of seduction. The same noblewoman now tying lace at her throat might attend libertine salons, might write letters in a faintly perfumed code of flirtation, might possess an engraving tucked discreetly behind a bookcase that would make her confessors blush. There is no shortage of skin in this world, but that skin, when revealed, is carefully curated, framed and performed. To sleep, however, is not performance, and so the body is cloaked again. Outside this chamber, in middle-class homes and rural dwellings, the rituals are simpler, but the philosophy remains. Nightgowns are worn, often of plain white linen or cotton. Men wear nightshirts, long, straight cut, like the ones you saw in earlier centuries, but now paired sometimes with slippers and caps. Sleepwear becomes more distinct from daily wear in this age. Clothes are divided more clearly, public and private, work and rest. The very notion of a nightgown as a separate category is solidifying. You hear a creak on the floorboards. The husband appears, fresh from his study, still brushing powder from his shoulders. His shirt is untucked, his face red from port. He yawns deeply, then reaches for his own nightshirt, discarding his waistcoat and breeches with little ceremony. His valet has already prepared the bed, warming the sheets with a copper pan filled with embers. The room is still cool despite the fire. The stone of the house holds cold in its bones. They speak briefly, almost absently. Their day has been filled with guests, letters, decisions. This hour is not one of passion, nor even tenderness. It is routine, a duty of sleep to be performed. The woman draws a curtain around the bed, not for privacy, there is no one else here, but because it is the done thing. A bed is a chamber within a chamber, a smaller, warmer room within the larger display of wealth and civility. But not everyone in this time has the luxury of ritual. In the servant quarters, the habits are looser, born of necessity. A chambermaid might fall asleep in her day dress, or in a rough smock kept only for night. A stable boy, curled near the hearth in winter, might sleep in breeches and boots. Privacy is rare, shared beds are common, and in these spaces it is possible, perhaps likely, that someone on some nights slept naked. Not by preference, but because their only garment was being mended or washed, or because the heat was too great in July, or simply because exhaustion left no room for propriety. But if they did, they wouldn't speak of it, not openly, not with pride. In pamphlets and etiquette books of the time, nakedness during sleep is described with caution. It's associated with sloth, with degeneracy, with illness. You're told to air your sheets but not your skin. Even physicians, progressive in other ways, warn against too much exposure at night. The body must be regulated, everything in moderation, even the warmth of your own limbs. And yet, as you watch the noble couple extinguish the final candles, you wonder, what lies beneath the lace, the wool, the linen? Do they long in some secret chamber of their hearts to strip it all away? To stretch into sleep with skin against skin, unshaped, uncostumed? Or has the ritual swallowed that possibility entirely? Perhaps they no longer think of it at all. The bed curtains fall, the fire dims, the room grows still. You leave quietly without sound, and find yourself again in the corridor between eras. The Enlightenment had its lace and its logic, its order, its powdered certainty. But ahead the world begins to stir with smoke and steam. The candles are replaced with coal, chimneys rise, chimneys cough, and in that choking city air, night will change again. The industrial age is calling, and with it, a different kind of sleep, in a different kind of body. The walls are narrower now, closer to your shoulders, and the air grows heavier, soot-scented, thick with the residue of coal and damp stone. You step through into the 19th century, not the romantic quiet of countryside estates, but the grinding belly of the city, where chimneys pour black smoke into an already grey sky, and streets are forever wet, forever crowded. This is the industrial age. Not a clean shift from Enlightenment polish, but a smudged smearing forward into a world ruled by factories, whistles, and weary bodies. You find yourself inside a tenement. The walls are thin and the ceilings low, layered with smoke from a cooking stove that never truly cools. You pass through a hallway, dim and narrow, past rows of hanging garments, men's trousers still damp from labour, a child's stocking, a woman's corset faded to the colour of ash. The room you enter is barely large enough for the single bed it contains. 3 people sleep there, bodies piled in stages of exhaustion. A mother and 2 children tucked like spoons in a drawer. The father is not here, he works nights. The mother stirs slightly, half waking. She wears a long flannel gown, ill-fitting, perhaps donated, perhaps remade from something once finer. It clings to her in places where it's worn thin, where mending has failed. Beneath it she may wear another layer still, stockings perhaps, or a chemise. Not for modesty, not entirely, but for warmth. The window leaks cold, the walls weep it. She doesn't sleep naked. No one here does. They cannot afford to. In the crowded slums of London, Manchester, New York and Glasgow, privacy has become a currency rarer than gold. You sleep beside siblings, boarders, even strangers. Beds are rented by the hour. In lodging houses you pay for a place to lie down. Not always horizontal, not always alone. Nightwear is worn as a boundary, a fragile one between your skin and the world pressing in from all sides. A body without cloth is too vulnerable, too poor, but not far from this room, just up the hill or across the river, another world sleeps differently. You step now into a more genteel home, that of a merchant or banker. The air changes slightly, less coal smoke, more boiled starch and lavender water. Here, the bedrooms are furnished, painted, trimmed. A maid is laying out a flannel nightgown for the mistress, who sits before a vanity removing her earrings. Her husband has already retired, his nightshirt crisp, his face pale in the firelight. He reclines not dramatically, not Roman, but stiffly, shaped by habit and by collar. She joins him in the bed, both of them sheathed in thick fabric. Their garments are no longer stitched by hand at home, but purchased, part of a growing industry in ready-made nightwear. The 1800s are seeing the rise of the commercial nightgown, the flannel nightshirt, the printed dressing gown. What you wear to bed now signals your place in the machine. It is not just about warmth or modesty, it is about class. A respectable home is one where every member is dressed for the day and dressed for the night, even if no one but the household sees them. Etiquette books from the era advise on appropriate sleepwear. Nightgowns should be clean, modest, and of sufficient coverage. Men's nightshirts should be buttoned, even in bed. One never knows who may fall ill in the night, who may knock upon the door, what emergency might call you into the street. The home might still be private, but the risk of exposure remains. Modesty is preparedness. You pass through another doorway, this one unpainted with chipped hinges, and enter a boarding house. The woman here is unmarried, working as a seamstress, and she rents this room with two other girls who work in the same garment factory. Her sleepwear is simple, sometimes merely the dress she wore to work. She undresses only partially, slipping off her bodice and overskirt, curling into a wool blanket with the underlayers still on. She has one nightgown, but it is too thin for winter. It hangs on a nail by the stove, stiff from last week's wash. Here too, naked sleep is not a choice, not a habit, not a desire. It is something else entirely, a whisper of indulgence that belongs to the wealthy or the wicked. In fiction and in scandal sheets, the naked body is associated with danger, with sexuality, with illness. The fallen woman, the idle woman, the mad woman, the corpse. In respectable life, the body is always clothed, covered, managed, and yet, in the private novels passed hand to hand, in the letters burned before morning, there are hints of something else. Characters who disrobe for love, or for sleep, or for freedom. The very mention of bare skin beneath bedsheets becomes titillating, symbolic. To sleep naked becomes not just a physical choice, but an act of rebellion, small, secret, and thrilling. It is rarely done, but it is imagined. In truth, though, the reality of most working-class lives leaves little space for rebellion. The hours are long, the beds are crowded, the rooms are cold. To sleep unclothed is simply impractical, a foolish luxury. For those who must rise before dawn and dress in seconds, sleeping in your undergarments is a form of preparation. Life leaves little room for dreaming, and yet the bed itself is changing. The mattress is firmer, springs are coming into design, bedding is becoming more accessible. You pass through homes with feather pillows and iron bed frames, with cotton sheets striped in blue and white. Even the poorest begin to own dedicated nightwear, even if it is homemade. Nightcaps, once elaborate, become simple affairs. A knit bonnet, a woven scarf, a way to trap warmth at the crown of the head. But the question still lingers in your mind. Who, in all this soot and steam, still dreams in the nude? You imagine one, just one, young man, alone in a rented room, washing soot from his skin with cold water from a chipped basin. He hangs his trousers over a chair, peels off his undershirt. He has no nightgown. He lies down, unclothed beneath the quilt, body still humming from the factory's rhythm. He doesn't think about history or etiquette. He doesn't wonder what others would say. He is tired. He wants sleep. He lets the cold pass over him and disappears into it. Perhaps it's rare. Perhaps it's wrong. but it happens, and that is where the thread leads next. For as the 19th century closes and the Victorian grip on propriety begins to slip, the world will change again. Intimacy, psychology, medicine and desire will twist the image of the sleeping body once more. Next, you will walk into the 20th century, and there, sleep will become personal, modern, and at last, partially free. You walk forward, but now the walls give way to something looser, less defined. There is less stone, less soot. The air grows clearer, warmer, tinged not with fire but with perfume and powder, and something new, electricity. The hum of modern life pulses somewhere in the bones of the building around you. Lamps flicker to life without matches. The glass in the windows is clean, unclouded. The turn of the 20th century has arrived, and with it the body begins, slowly, cautiously, to re-emerge. You're in a boudoir now, the first true version of it, separate from the marital bedroom, soft with wallpapered walls and thick carpet, a room meant for retreat, preparation and reflection. Not just a dressing room, a private world. A woman stands before a vanity. Her hair is curled, pinned, not powdered. Her corset lies undone on a chair, and on the bed behind her is a nightgown. Silk, cut on the bias, shaped with intention. It is not the heavy sack of previous centuries, nor the flannel armour of the industrial poor. It clings in places, suggests. It is meant to be worn, yes, but also seen. This is the dawn of lingerie, the moment when sleepwear becomes something other than functional, something personal. The woman in the mirror is not old, but not young. Her hands move with decision. She knows who she is, and when she slips the silk over her head, she does not rush. She moves slowly. There is no fear of being seen, but no desire to perform either. She wears it because she chooses to, because it feels good on her skin, because it is hers. The 1900s begin with dualities. The Victorian shadow still lingers, its codes, its fears, its stiff moral backbone, but cracks are showing. In magazines and catalogues, advertisements for bedroom elegance begin to appear. Nightgowns are tailored, coloured, shaped. Fabrics range from wool to silk, cotton to crepe. The household manuals of the day still advise women to dress decently for bed, to remain ready for illness or fire, but the tone is changing. There is a softness to the language now, a shift from warning to suggestion. For men, the shift is slower, but it happens. Pyjamas arrive from the East, adopted first by wealthy travellers and then by fashion-forward gentlemen. At first, they are worn only in private clubs or luxurious hotels, but by the 1920s they are increasingly standard for middle-class men. The long nightshirt, ubiquitous for centuries, begins to disappear. Two-piece sleepwear becomes the new norm. Drawstring trousers, loose-fitting shirts, practical, decent, slightly more modern. And yet, the naked body begins to stir again, this time from beneath the surface. Freud writes, and people listen. The subconscious enters the conversation. Dreams are no longer just idle flickers, they are pathways to truth. The body becomes a source of knowledge, desire, vulnerability. In literature, the veil lifts slightly. Characters undress more often. Their nightwear is described with more detail. The idea of someone sleeping nude is no longer scandal. It's intrigue. Psychology turns the gaze inward, and suddenly, what one wears, or does not wear, to bed becomes meaningful. You pass into a new room, quieter, plainer. A bachelor apartment in the city, New York perhaps, or Paris, 1930s. The walls are lined with books, the floor creaks underfoot. The man who lives here is educated, perhaps artistic, slightly outside convention. He reads late into the night, then undresses without ceremony. He folds his shirt, unlaces his shoes. He does not reach for nightclothes. He pours a glass of water, turns out the light, and slips into bed, bare. It is not about rebellion. It is not a statement. It is simply preference. The 20th century has opened a door that cannot be closed. The private world is growing. Bedrooms are more individualized. Space is increasingly carved out for the self. Not just for family, for marriage, for image, but for comfort, for identity, for the quiet assertion of control. But old habits linger. In family homes across the Western world, modesty is still taught. Children wear cotton pyjamas printed with cheerful patterns. Teenagers are expected to remain decent, covered, proper, especially in shared households. Nakedness, if it occurs, is private, shielded. In magazines, in advice columns, in school books, the tone remains guarded. Good people, respectable people, wear something to bed. Yet, even so, the tone has changed. It is no longer about morality. It is about propriety, yes, but also practicality, warmth, hygiene, safety. The fire no longer threatens as it did in the gaslit days, but the instinct remains: cover yourself, just in case. And yet, statistics begin to appear, quietly, hesitantly. In certain medical journals, doctors suggest that sleeping nude might be beneficial, for temperature regulation, for skin health, for intimacy. The conversation has begun to shift from moral to medical, from sin to science. In 1942, the American Medical Association publishes an article noting that some patients experience better sleep when not restricted by tight garments. In the same decade, women's magazines begin to ask, "Do you wear flannel to bed, or nothing at all?" A wink hidden between recipes and housekeeping tips. It is not a revolution, but it is something. You step back, not into a new room, but into a narrow hallway lined with doors. Each one leads to another decade, another version of the sleeping body. You hear radios playing low, the clatter of typewriters, the early hum of television. The 20th century is gathering speed, gathering noise, but inside the bedroom a strange calm is emerging. The night is becoming truly private for the first time. In the next room, someone is taking off their robe. The window is open, the bed is cool, there is no nightgown laid out, no flannel, no cotton, only a quiet body returning to itself, returning to bare skin beneath the blankets, and beyond that, the second half of the century waits, the 60s, the 70s, the birth of the modern self, and the naked sleeper will finally be common, but not uncomplicated. The door opens and sound floods in, vibrant, pulsing, loud, a new kind of night. You step into the second half of the 20th century and find that sleep, once hidden, once managed and modest and muffled, is now dancing at the edge of freedom. The world outside the bedroom is changing fast. Television glows blue in darkened living rooms, vinyl spins in cluttered apartments, cars hum along highways that never close. The post-war years have given birth to something raw and restless, and people are beginning to claim their bodies again, and that, inevitably, reaches the bed. You're in a small but tidy flat in London, 1967. The summer of love. Posters on the walls, a lava lamp pulsing softly in a corner, the scent of incense curling like smoke from an unseen fire. The woman who lives here is young, working in publishing perhaps, political in her conversations and private in her pleasures. She's not wealthy, but she owns her space, her room, her time, her body. She has returned from a gathering, kicked off her boots, undressed in a series of simple, thoughtless gestures. The radio still murmurs from the windowsill, the mamas and the papas singing faintly about dreams. She wears nothing. No cotton nightdress, no slips, no underclothes. She sleeps naked by choice, not for provocation, not for heat, for comfort. For some, it's new. For others, it's always been there, hidden beneath blankets and silence. But now it is spoken aloud, advertised even. In certain circles, youthful, bohemian, progressive, sleeping nude becomes a symbol, a micro-act of liberation, a rejection of constraint. Bras are burned in daylight protests, but at night, the rebellion continues beneath the covers. You begin to notice the ripple of this change in popular culture. Advice columns in women's magazines shift tone, no longer cautionary, but inquisitive. Nude sleeping, is it right for you? Reads one from 1972. Lifestyle articles describe the sensation of cool sheets on bare skin. Doctors appear on morning shows recommending minimal sleepwear for improved rest. The body, once hidden behind nightgowns and moral panic, has become a subject of conversation again. Clinical, sensual, and personal all at once. In America, the 1970s are a mess of contradictions. Sexual openness grows louder, but so too does the commodification of intimacy. Nightwear is sold as both seduction and safety. Walk through a department store and you'll find flannel pyjama sets beside sheer teddies, silk robes marketed to housewives and lace chemises that promise confidence with every button. But beneath the glossy campaigns, something real is happening. People are choosing, really choosing, what to wear to bed and why. The question is no longer what is expected, but what feels right. You step into a suburban home, this one from the mid-1980s. The parents sleep upstairs, the children in their own rooms. The house is quiet still, softly humming with appliances left on. In the master bedroom, the mother lies reading. She wears a cotton gown, thin, patterned with small blue flowers. The father beside her has changed into boxers and a t-shirt. He is already asleep. Their routine is stable, comforting, familiar. And yet, when you pass into the guest room, the college-age daughter visiting from university, there is something different. A towel draped over the back of a chair, a book on the floor, an empty bed. She enters from the bathroom, clean and pink from a hot shower, hair twisted up in a knot. She walks to the bed without dressing. She doesn't hesitate. She doesn't look for a nightgown. She simply lifts the covers and slips beneath them. This is no longer unusual. By the 1980s, surveys begin to appear. Quietly at first, small studies, magazine polls, and then more formally. Results vary by country, class, climate. But a trend begins to emerge. Sleeping nude is no longer rare. Not majority perhaps, but present. Among younger adults especially, it becomes not just acceptable, but popular. Still, the change is uneven. In colder climates, habits linger. Pyjamas remain dominant. In many households, generations live side by side and modesty remains a shared language. Not everyone welcomes the shift. For some, it still feels illicit. For others, impractical. And in media, the naked body is often still wrapped in contradiction. At once liberated and objectified, freed and sold back as image. Yet in bedrooms where doors can close, where personal space has been carved and kept, the choice to wear nothing is no longer a scandal. It is a softness, a comfort, a return. In a high-rise apartment in Tokyo, you watch a man in his 30s set down his phone, turn off his bedside lamp. He wears loose cotton shorts. He wears nothing above. In a hotel room in Toronto, a businesswoman draws the curtains and drops her robe, climbing into sheets as cold as they are clean. In a warm bedroom in São Paulo, a couple undresses silently, separately, naturally, without ceremony. Not everyone sleeps naked. Most still don't. But now, those who do are no longer the outliers. They are simply sleepers, making choices, quiet ones, under blankets, in darkness. And the conversation continues. By the 1990s, fashion houses sell naked sleep as empowerment. Ads depict women lounging on linen sheets, wearing nothing but confidence. Men's magazines tout the health benefits of bearing all at night. And somewhere between marketing and memory, the act of sleeping without clothes becomes quietly normal. But the century is not over yet, and the digital age is coming. Screens, surveillance, new kinds of exposure. You will walk into bedrooms where sleep is documented, measured, branded, where what you wear to bed is recorded, on apps, on TikToks, in datasets. And in the strange new world of hypervisibility, being naked in the dark may come to mean something entirely new again, something as old as the Roman villa, and as new as tomorrow morning's algorithm. The next door awaits. It opens into the 21st century, and in it, the sleeper looks back and forward at once. The air around you buzzes faintly, like a phone left on vibrate under a pillow. The hum is ambient, constant, electrical, algorithmic. You've entered the 21st century and it is nothing like the night before. Gone are the chambermaids and coals, the lace and etiquette books. Gone too, mostly, are the thick layers of wool and flannel. Here, now, in this quiet new century, everything is faster, brighter, noisier. And yet the night, strangely, has become a place of stillness again. Personal, tracked, shared, and often more bare than ever before. You're standing in a modern bedroom. It could be anywhere. Brooklyn or Berlin, Seoul or São Paulo. The shapes are universal now. Minimalist, rectangular, walls painted in neutral tones, bedding in muted greys or soft beiges, everything curated to soothe and signal control. A lamp glows on a sleek nightstand. A glass of water, a charger cord, a smartphone. The sleeper here is already in bed, on her side, scrolling. Her face glows faintly blue. She's checking messages, skimming headlines, reading half a sentence of something meant to calm her. She shifts, yawns, then puts the phone down. Her hand rests momentarily on the fabric beside her, but there's nothing there. No pyjama top, no sleeve. Her body is uncovered by habit, not by statement. She sleeps naked. Not every night, but most. She read somewhere it helps with temperature, somewhere else that it reduces cortisol. She saw a post about it, a thread of sleep hacks promising better REM, better intimacy, better skin. And maybe those things are true, but that's not why she does it, not really. She does it because she can. Because in this room, with the door closed and the soft noise of a sleepcast playing low, she's allowed to do exactly what she wants. The bedroom has become a fortress of the self, a curated retreat, a controlled exposure. But as she turns onto her back, pulling the blanket over bare skin, her smartwatch tracks every movement, her breath, her pulse, her stillness. In the morning she'll be told how well she slept, by a screen. Even in sleep she's not entirely alone. You begin to see it everywhere. In modern surveys the numbers are clear. The number of people who sleep nude is rising. In the US, estimates from the 2010s show nearly 1 in 3 adults sleep without clothing. In the UK, similar trends appear. The reasons are varied: comfort, heat, intimacy, body freedom. There's less shame now, more choice, more curiosity, but there is also more watching. You walk into a different bedroom now, smaller, messier, full of personality. There's a plant on the shelf, its leaves wilted slightly, and books stacked in uneven towers on the floor. Posters on the wall, some peeling at the edges. The young man here is brushing his teeth in the ensuite. He wears boxers, but he'll remove them before bed. He always does. He discovered naked sleeping in college, when laundry was scarce and roommates were respectful. It stuck. Now, he can't imagine the feel of fabric between his legs at night. He tried sleeping in joggers once on a trip. Couldn't settle. Felt wrong. He doesn't tell anyone this. Not because he's ashamed, but because it doesn't feel notable. It's just how he sleeps. Just one more preference among many, like blackout curtains, white noise, room temperature set precisely to 67 degrees. You pass into another room, larger, shared by 2. The couple here lies close, feet tangled. Neither wears much. One is naked, the other wears briefs. They don't always undress fully, especially if one is sick or if it's cold. But most nights they do. They say it helps them feel close, connected. They read that skin-to-skin contact boosts oxytocin. They say it casually, without irony, as though quoting a product description. It is true, though, and not new. What's new is the way everything has been made measurable, discussable, brandable. Sleepwear, or lack thereof, is no longer just a private decision. It's a wellness choice, a lifestyle indicator, a TikTok routine, a did you know segment on morning television. There are mattress companies now that market directly to naked sleepers, sheets with cooling technology, fabrics that promise breathability, even nude-friendly comforters. And yet, in all this openness, vulnerability has not disappeared. If anything, it has transformed. For every person who strips down to sleep freely, there is another who cannot, who shares space, who fears being seen, who worries about emergencies or cultural norms or simple embarrassment. In many cultures, naked sleeping remains taboo. In many households, it is simply impractical. Shame may be quieter now, but it has not left the room entirely. It wears different clothes. It speaks in subtler tones. You visit one last home tonight, a small apartment in a city where the air conditioner buzzes faintly, a ceiling fan turning above. The woman here sleeps clothed. Soft cotton pyjama pants, an oversized tee. Her drawers are full of options: silk slips, sports bras, warm socks. She has tried sleeping nude. It didn't suit her. She missed the boundary of fabric, the comfort of routine. She doesn't judge those who do. She just prefers layers. This too is freedom. The modern age of sleep is not a monolith. It is a mosaic. One where nakedness is no longer scandal but not quite neutral either. It is a decision, sometimes practical, sometimes ideological, sometimes unconscious. It is offered in influencer captions and late-night Reddit posts. It is filmed, filtered, shared, celebrated, or completely unspoken. And through it all, the body has returned, not as spectacle or sin, but as self. In the next part of your journey you will return to that self, to the psychological, to the elemental, to the strange, quiet truth that beneath all the layers of time and cloth and culture, the body sleeps best when it remembers what it is. You're not done walking through history yet. There is one final door on the horizon, the oldest one, and it opens into the raw dark of prehistory, where no one wore nightcaps, where nakedness was not chosen. It simply was. There are no walls now, no hallways, no hearths, no hung tapestries or whispering radiators. The floor beneath your feet is not wood, nor stone, nor woven rug, but earth, cool and uneven, scattered with moss and bone and ash. The air is not perfumed, nor perfunctory. It is thick with the scent of soil, animal fat, smoke from a fire that is barely more than ember. You're here, finally, at the beginning, the raw beginning. Before pyjamas, before propriety, before fabric itself, prehistory. Not the prehistory of textbooks or museums, with carbon-dated tools behind glass, but the living world of early humans, the ache of hunger in the belly, the constant hum of alertness in the bones. You stand at the edge of a cave, or perhaps beneath an outcrop of rock, above a valley swept with mist. The sun is gone. The fire sputters low. All around you is night, but not silence. There are wolves in that dark, winds that cut through bone, eyes you cannot see watching from the shadows. The people here are small groups, family, tribe, whatever word you might give them from your modern tongue. They sit close, their bodies pressed together in the warmth of mutual survival. They have animal skins, yes, but no stitching, no seams, no clothes as you know them, only coverings, draped, layered, removed at will. They wrap themselves for function, not modesty. Their nakedness is not symbolic, it is not cultural currency, it is not sacred, it is not shameful, it is simply there. They sleep naked when they can, or half-covered, or wrapped in hides. The rules are the rules of weather, of threat, of terrain. There is no shame in the breast or groin, only risk in being cold, only risk in being alone. The ground they sleep on is padded with what they've gathered, dried grasses, woven branches, maybe even early furs. They curl close to one another, the older children folded into their parents' arms, the youngest nestled against the centre of the fire circle. Their skin touches. They do not speak of it. They do not look away. There is no reason to. Their sleep is different from yours. Lighter. Broken. Attuned to every snap of twig, every cough of the fire. The night is not divided into clean hours, but flows in cycles. Sleep, wake, doze, tend, rest again. Some watch while others sleep. Some sleep while others nurse wounds or hunger or the ache of fear. Nakedness in this world is the default. Fabric, the exception. If you had no cloth, would you call your bare skin naked? You observe a woman, her body broad, her hands calloused. She lies down beside the fire with only a deerskin slung over her hips. Her chest is uncovered, her arms are outstretched. There is no tension in her nudity, no theatricality. She sleeps like stone cooling beneath the sun. You sense her heat from here, the simple, practical softness of her form. Her mate lies beside her, shoulder to shoulder. They breathe as one organism. The fire crackles. Sparks drift into the dark. This is not a bedroom. It is a shelter. A womb of rock and flickering light. And yet here, perhaps, sleep is truer than in any age you've seen. Uncut by rules. Unpressed by shame. They have not yet been taught to hide. Not yet invented the stories that drape the body in fiction. They live in their skin as simply as birds live in feathers, and yet danger surrounds them. Always. A sudden storm, a predator, a shift in season. When it comes, they will wrap themselves swiftly. They will run with skins thrown over shoulders, infants clutched in arms. But in calm hours, in firelight, they undress without thought. They sleep in their own bodies, as they were born, as they will die. You wonder what they dream. Not of gods, not yet. Not of cities or shame or society. But perhaps of warmth, of softness, of limbs brushing in sleep, of the fire's breath on skin. They may not have the words for comfort, but their bodies know it. And that is where all of it begins. Not with the invention of the nightgown, not with linen or lace or flannel, but with this, a human, sleeping next to another, their skin bare, their breath slow, their body unafraid. This is not nostalgia. This is not a suggestion to return. You know more now. You have doors that lock and floors that don't bite. You have blankets made by machines and windows that hold back the wind. But in this darkness, this oldest, softest dark, you glimpse the root of it. To sleep naked is not modern. It is not decadent. It is not scandal. It is origin. The fire crackles. The wind shifts. The woman turns slightly, curling into the warmth of the one beside her. The children breathe shallow, fast. One hand reaches out, touches skin, holds it. The fire dims. You step back. Stone gives way to wood, wood to tile, tile to carpet. The cave fades. But the shape of sleep it held, its simplicity, its freedom, remains inside you. You're walking forward again. The timeline resumes. But the ancient body, bare and resting, walks with you now. Because even as we invent more threads, more rules, more ways to be decent and correct, the truth is simple. We began unclothed, and we have never fully forgotten what that means. The rawness of the past still clings to your skin as you step through the next doorway. The cave has disappeared, but you carry its silence, its closeness to the earth. Now, the ground beneath you is harder. Stone floors laid by hands, the marks of tools faint in the grooves. You're walking into the ancient world again, but this time not the fluid sensuality of Rome, nor the pragmatic humility of medieval villages. This is a quieter, sterner place, a temple, a cell, a chamber behind thick walls, where the candlelight burns not for warmth, but for discipline. Religion rises around you, not just one, but many, layered, overlapping. Faith is woven into the world now, and sleep, once raw and free, is being dressed again. Not by cloth, but by doctrine. You're in a monastery first, early Christian. Stone walls, narrow windows, the kind of cold that never truly leaves. A monk lies on a simple cot, his robe still wrapped tightly around him. He does not sleep naked. He does not sleep in sleepwear. He sleeps in his habit, rough wool against skin, his hands folded over his chest, not by instinct, but by instruction. His body is not his own. It is a vessel, a servant of divine will. Nakedness is not natural here. It is dangerous. It tempts. It opens the soul to corruption. For early Christians, the body is often viewed with suspicion. It is the site of weakness, of fleshly appetite. Sleep is a vulnerable state, and to be unclothed in sleep is to risk losing the fragile grip on virtue. Many early monastic rules, such as those of St. Benedict, do not directly prohibit sleeping unclothed, but they make it clear. Discipline in the day must extend into the night. The habit remains on. Even in dreams, modesty must be guarded. You step outside the cloister and the world expands. In Islamic tradition too, sleep is guided by teachings. Specific postures recommended, prayers whispered before the eyes close. Cleanliness is vital. Modesty, even in sleep, remains part of faith. Garments are expected, though simple, loose, light, not burdensome but present. To be seen naked by others, even in sleep, is discouraged. But the emphasis is not shame, it is humility, respect. The body is sacred and must be honoured, even when unconscious. In Jewish households of the past, similar boundaries appear. Laws around modesty vary, but the sleeping body is not forgotten. To sleep without a covering is considered improper by many traditional teachings, especially in mixed households. Ritual cleanliness, morning prayers, and respect for the body guide the shape of the night. Sleep is not only rest, it is a surrender of self, a small death, and one must enter it prepared. Even in ancient Hindu texts, the body is seen as both divine and delicate. Nudity is not inherently shameful, but sleep is still governed by rules of posture, direction, purity. Specific sleeping positions are encouraged, facing certain cardinal points, wearing specific cloth. To lie down unclothed might be acceptable in solitude, but rarely in shared spaces. Modesty is not about hiding, but honouring the vessel that carries the soul. You begin to see the thread now, the metaphorical one. The idea that sleep is more than physical rest. It is spiritual territory, a place where gods may visit, where judgment might fall, where the line between flesh and spirit blurs. To cover the body, then, is not only protection from the cold or a mark of modesty, it is ritual, a symbol, a kind of quiet armour. You pass into a bedroom of a devout Victorian family. The father kneels beside the bed, still in shirt and vest. His children wear buttoned flannel nightshirts. Their prayers are whispered through yawns. Their mother smooths down collars, tucks in hems. There is love here, yes, but also order, structure. The night is choreographed. Even the act of undressing becomes regulated. The room glows with lamplight, soft but watchful. Nakedness is not only private, it is absent. You realise now that across centuries, cultures, continents, a kind of consensus emerges. Modesty in sleep is the default, not universal, not immutable, but dominant, and yet there are cracks in the cloth. Every religion has its mystics, its outliers, its saints and poets and wild souls who sleep under stars wrapped in nothing but sky. In early Christian hermitages, some monks chose to sleep unclothed to better feel the cold, an offering of discomfort. In Eastern traditions, ascetics sleep on bare ground, their skin kissed by wind and insects closer to earth and hunger. The line between discipline and freedom bends. Even within faiths that prioritize modesty, the conversation is alive, debated, lived differently by different believers. The devout widow in her cotton robe, the Sufi poet naked under the moon, reciting prayers into the dark. The rabbi's son who opens the window too wide, lets the cold rush in, sleeps shirtless and alive with questions. You turn another corner. The room here is not ancient, not ascetic. It is modern, but sparse. On the wall, a cross. On the shelf, a folded prayer rug. The sleeper here is young, mixed faith, mixed habits. She lies beneath her blanket with nothing on. She wears no shame. Her eyes are closed. Her phone is on airplane mode. Her last thoughts were not theological, but her sleep is clean. Her breath is steady. Her body is hers. And so you walk onward, now not through rooms, but through patterns. The sacred and the sensual, the clothed and the bare, all threading into one truth. The sleeping body is never just a body. It is a story, a belief, a gesture, a question. And so in the next part you will return again to those questions, to the birth of the nightgown, to its curious rise, not as a moral shroud, but as a fashion, as a comfort, as a social script. Because the moment humans invented fabric, they began deciding what it meant to wear, or not wear it. Even in sleep, especially in sleep. The passage opens again, not as a grand threshold, but as a soft flutter, like fabric caught in a breeze. You step forward, and time thickens into texture, layered, stitched, hemmed. You're now in the age of invention, not the mechanical kind, but the social one. The moment when nightwear begins to take a real, recognisable shape. Not a shift worn beneath day clothes, not a tunic repurposed for sleep, but a garment made for one purpose only, to be worn between consciousness and dream, the nightgown. You arrive in the 16th century. The air is scented with lavender, damp earth, and the smoke of peat fires. You're in England, or perhaps northern France. The home is wealthy but not excessive. A noble household where linen is abundant, and sleep is a matter not only of necessity but of status. You pass a chambermaid hanging a white gown near the hearth. It is not ornate. There is no embroidery, no lace, just a long, clean, straight piece of cloth, bleached and pressed. But it is not underclothing. It is not for display. It is for sleep, and only sleep. This, already, is a quiet revolution. In earlier centuries, the line between sleepwear and undergarments had been porous, if it existed at all. People slept in what they wore beneath, or what they wore for modesty's sake, or in nothing if they could. But now a subtle distinction begins to form. The nightgown appears as a category unto itself. Its first wearers are those with means, aristocrats, clergy, wealthy merchants. Linen is expensive, laundering is laborious, and to own a garment dedicated to sleep implies you do not need to make do. For men, the nightshirt is first. Wide-sleeved, knee-length, sometimes cuffed, often plain. It evolves from the chemise, but it is cut slightly fuller, meant not to be hidden under hose or doublet. In portraits you begin to see it. Royalty depicted on deathbeds, in soft white cloth, dignified even in dying. The idea of sleepwear begins at the end, then folds backward into daily life. Death robes and nightshirts become cousins. For women, the transition is slower. Their layers are more complex, their modesty more enforced. but the concept follows: a dedicated gown, long and loose, often with ties at the neck or delicate embroidery at the cuff. At first it resembles the chemise exactly, but slowly its features evolve: slightly softer fabric, slightly wider sleeves, a gathering at the bust. Eventually, by the 18th century, it becomes something entirely distinct, recognisably nightwear. You step into a later room now, Georgian, stately, still. The nightgown here is folded carefully on a stool by the bed. It is finer than before, edged with lace, perhaps even monogrammed. There are now tailors who specialise in nightwear. Paris and London shops sell them. Silk ones for the fashionable, flannel for the practical, cotton muslin for the moderate. The nightgown is no longer just functional, it is aesthetic. A garment designed to perform modesty and grace, even in privacy. And yet, you realise this is still not universal. In working-class homes, sleep remains simpler. People often own 1 or 2 garments total. What they wear to bed is what they wore to labour. A woman in a Yorkshire cottage may pull off her apron but not her shift. A man who hauls coal may strip to his undershirt and collapse onto a straw mattress, unwashed, half-clothed. For them, a separate nightgown is impractical, unnecessary. But the idea trickles down. Over time, even among the poor, sleepwear becomes a goal, something one acquires when life permits, a marker of having enough. You walk through the centuries now as through a dressing room. Nightgowns lengthen, narrow, flare. They are pleated in the Regency era, frilled in the Victorian, sleeveless in the Jazz Age. By the 19th century, catalogues list entire pages of nightwear options. 1-piece gowns, 2-piece sets, linen, cotton, flannelette. Pyjamas arrive, borrowed from Eastern cultures, adopted first by elite men, then fashionable women, then everyone else. And with this explosion of choice, the act of choosing not to wear anything becomes, at last, a decision. You enter a bedroom in the 1920s, Art Deco mirror, silk sheets. A woman reclines in a peach-coloured bias-cut gown. She's reading Colette. Her feet are bare. She bought this nightgown for herself, not for her husband. It cost more than it should have. She doesn't wear it every night. Some nights she wears nothing at all. In her vanity drawer is a leaflet from a department store. It offers dozens of nightgown options. Backless, sleeveless, sheer. No longer are these garments only about modesty. They are about self, about taste, about identity. The bedroom is becoming a stage again, but this time for the individual. Nightwear becomes flirtation, fashion, function. And in response, nakedness becomes something else too. Not shameful, not default, but personal. In the present day, the nightgown is still with us. Its forms have changed. It might be a cotton t-shirt, a tank top, an oversized hoodie, or a vintage silk slip worn ironically. The word has almost slipped from speech. Nightgown sounds old-fashioned now, grandmotherly, but its spirit persists in the simple act of putting something on to go to bed. A ritual, a choice. You see now that the nightgown was never just a garment. It was an idea, that sleep is not just biological but social, that the body must be prepared not only to rest, but to rest within a context. The nightgown gave form to modesty, to beauty, to care, and in doing so it gave rise to its opposite. It made room for the naked sleeper to say, "I choose not to." The story is not finished. The garment still hangs in closets, still folds onto beds. But in the next room, you will enter the realm of science, of measured sleep, monitored breath, and the question of whether clothes matter at all. Because now, in laboratories and clinics, the body is watched again. Not for sin, not for shame, but for data. And the naked sleeper is being studied. The walls around you shift again, no longer carved of stone, nor warmed by firelight. You step now into fluorescent white. The air hums with sterility, faint ozone, polished plastic. This is not a bedroom, it is a sleep lab. A room built to simulate rest but designed for observation. A place where the body is both subject and object. Here, sleep is no longer myth, ritual or privacy. It is measurable, graphable, a field of data. You're in a facility, perhaps in Boston, or Zurich, or Tokyo. It is the 1980s, or the early 2000s, or right now. The time blurs. What matters is the machine. Electrodes on the scalp, Straps across the chest, cameras in the corners, sensors under the mattress, every breath tracked, every twitch logged. The sleeper lies beneath a thin hospital sheet, and beside the bed sits a researcher watching graphs in real time. This is the world of sleep science. For the first time in history, humans are studying sleep not through dreams or doctrine, but through physiology. REM, delta, cortisol, core body temperature, circadian rhythms. The language is clinical now. The sleeper is no longer a soul in private surrender, but a system in need of understanding. And science, inevitably, begins to notice something old again. What the body wears to bed matters, not just for comfort or custom, but for the very process of sleep itself. You move now through journals, studies, papers, language dense, citations long. But the conclusions are clear. Sleeping naked can aid thermoregulation. The body naturally cools in sleep, and heavy clothing or layered fabrics interfere with that process. Naked skin allows heat to release. It aligns better with the drop in core temperature that signals the onset of deep sleep. Other studies follow. Touch, bare skin against bare skin, boosts oxytocin, reduces stress, lowers blood pressure. Couples who sleep skin to skin report better rest, better intimacy, fewer disruptions. The evidence is not overwhelming, but it is growing. Doctors begin to suggest it, not loudly, not universally, but quietly, as part of sleep hygiene tips. Blogs pick it up, health magazines print lists, 7 benefits of sleeping naked. Influencers test it, therapists mention it in passing, and somewhere between the clinical and the casual, the naked sleeper becomes legitimate. Not only safe, but smart. You enter another room now, one less medical, more digital. A bedroom with smart lights, voice assistants, a mattress that adjusts its firmness algorithmically. On the nightstand is a sleep tracker. On the wall, a thermostat. The sleeper here has optimized their rest. Screens are off an hour before bed. Caffeine intake tracked. Blue light filtered. Pyjamas. Optional. They have read the studies. They've tried it both ways. In summer, they prefer to sleep unclothed. In winter, perhaps not. The choice is fluid now, responsive. The body is treated as a system, and sleepwear becomes one more variable to tune. You watch them sleep, still, measured, quiet, and beside their bed, a device records heart rate, respiration, and temperature fluctuations throughout the night. In the morning, a graph will tell them whether it worked. The naked body is no longer shamed, it is monitored. But this too is a kind of exposure, because even as the data grows, something essential slips away. The mystery, the sacred softness of the sleeper. In a lab, in a clinic, in a spreadsheet, the sleeper is flattened, reduced. A column of variables. The ancient silence of rest becomes a screen of noise, and even nakedness, once radical, instinctive, becomes part of the performance. Another checkbox, another lifestyle choice. But not everywhere. You pass again through doorways, real ones, imagined ones, and find yourself in more familiar spaces. A woman in her 30s, reading in bed, choosing between her favourite cotton set or nothing at all. A man in his 40s living alone, always sleeping naked, never thinking twice. A couple in their 70s, one in flannel, one in briefs, both drifting off with limbs touching. They have never read a sleep study. They do not need to, their bodies know what to do. Science may study sleep, but the sleeper is still human, still full of story, memory, desire. Even here, in the brightest room, where breath is counted and dreams are watched through glass, the naked sleeper remains something more than data. A return, a whisper from the past, a reminder that long before the machines, long before the doctrine and etiquette and fabric, sleep began with skin-meeting darkness and nothing in between. And now, in the next part, you'll begin to see the echoes. The cultural pendulum, the tension between exposure and concealment. Because even in the age of science, of freedom, of choice, naked sleep is still not simple. It is still political, still gendered, still tangled in the gaze of others. You'll walk now into the social body, the judgmental body, the clothed and unclothed self in a world that never stops watching. The world you step into now is not defined by walls or temperature, but by attention, by the ever-present possibility of being seen. You're still in the 21st century, but the rooms have changed again. Their shape is dictated not only by architecture but by surveillance, by performance, by the quiet pressure of being perceived. You feel it already, the prickling at the back of the neck, the way you stand a little straighter when you walk past a mirror, the way you hesitate at the thought of being watched, especially in sleep, especially when unclothed. This part of the journey is about the social self, the way we exist when we believe we are not alone, even in our most private rituals. The naked sleeper, so natural in prehistory, so ceremonial in aristocratic chambers, so measured in modern sleep science, now finds themselves in a room where no one is watching, but someone might be. You begin in a dormitory, a small shared room, 2 beds, 2 roommates, early 20s. One is already in bed, shirtless, scrolling through their phone. The other stands awkwardly beside the closet, debating whether to remove their shirt. They sleep better without it, always have. But this isn't home, and someone else is there, and modesty is no longer about belief or doctrine. It's about proximity, about trust, about whether someone will think you're trying to be provocative, about what's safe. In shared spaces, the choice to sleep naked becomes charged again, not with religious weight, but with social risk. Male or female, the calculation is similar. Will this be misunderstood? Will this be judged? Even if unspoken, the question hovers, and for women especially it carries more. Because while science may say that sleeping naked improves rest, society still views the naked body through 1,000 filters: sexual, moral, commercial. In magazines, a woman who sleeps naked is confident. In gossip, she's scandalous. In conversation, she's brave, or inappropriate. The same action changes shape in the eyes of the beholder. You pass into another bedroom, this time suburban, quiet. A mother with young children. She once slept naked in her 20s, in the years before marriage and babies and neighbourhood etiquette. But now, with toddlers waking suddenly at 3 a.m, with the real possibility of needing to rush into the hallway, into their rooms, into public view, she sleeps clothed again. A compromise. A soft cotton set with buttons. Warm, but not too warm. Just in case, she tells herself. Just in case. The same fear whispers in the mind of the teenager, the single woman with roommates, the man in the apartment with paper-thin walls and nosy neighbours. Nudity, even while unconscious, is not only about comfort, it's about risk. Being caught in a moment that should belong to no one else, and having it seen. And yet, in private corners, naked sleep persists. In couples' bedrooms, behind bolted doors, in studios with blackout curtains, in mountain cabins with no one for miles. The naked sleeper returns in these spaces, not always for sensuality, but for solitude, for absence. The absence of fabric, yes, but also of scrutiny, of commentary, of shape-making. You enter a room where a man lies alone, the curtains drawn. He sleeps on his stomach, back bare, breath deep. No one sees him like this. Not his co-workers, not his friends, not even his lover, perhaps. This version of his body exists only at night, unguarded. He has learned to love the feeling of the sheets against skin, the way his limbs are not bound by elastic or hem. He says nothing of it to others. It's not shame, it's privacy, something sacred in a world that offers so little of it. You cross again into a room with 2 lovers, half asleep, skin on skin. They have reached the place where nakedness no longer speaks. It simply is. There is no performance, no statement, only comfort, only nearness. But then, you pass through the faintest threshold, and now the same body, the same sleep, is in the frame of a phone, a social media post, a Sunday reset video showing bedding, a half-glimpsed leg, a bare back under covers. Suddenly, sleep is content, and the body, even in its most vulnerable state, is consumable. The naked sleeper must navigate again, not between morality and freedom, but between intimacy and performance, between privacy and the algorithm. The moment they choose to post, or even to mention their choice, the act shifts. I sleep naked becomes a brand, a joke, a trend. The gaze returns, not religious now, nor even strictly moral, but constant, curious, scrolling. And yet, in countless rooms, the choice is still made quietly. A final act before the lights go out, a shirt lifted, the waistband slipped down, a moment of cool air, then the embrace of sheets. For many, it's not rebellion, it's not fashion, it's not sexuality, it's habit, it's peace, it's forgetting that there's a world at all beyond the bed's edges, You realise something here at this bend in the story. The naked sleeper is not a single figure, it is thousands, each with their own reasons, some shaped by history, some shaped by fear, some shaped by nothing more than the weight of cotton on skin and a quiet no spoken only to themselves. And so, in the next part, you'll begin to pull the story together. The question has lingered. Did people in the past sleep naked? But now you've seen the answer is not a yes or a no, it's a map of bodies and rules and warmth and silence, of who owns the night and why. The rooms behind you blur now. Their walls, stone, wood, silk, plaster, concrete, dissolve into one long corridor of changing habits, rules, and silence. You've walked through centuries. You've watched sleepers curl beneath straw, velvet, polyester, and nothing at all. You've seen the naked sleeper rebuked, desired, ignored, measured, and finally normalized. Almost. But the story isn't linear. It never was. It folds. Fashions return. Ideas repeat. A nightgown hung in a modern closet might mirror the chemise of a 12th century woman. A flannel pyjama top worn in a Brooklyn apartment could have sat comfortably on the back of a coal worker in 1891. A man sleeping naked beside a fan in July echoes the Roman reclining under open shutters. The forms change, the reasons remain. You're in a bedroom again, but it's a collage of centuries. The light of a smart bulb glows where a candle once burned. The linen is machine-washed, but still drawn from the same flax fields as long ago. The body in bed, your own, or imagined, is made of flesh, muscle, breath, warmth. Nothing history has ever outgrown. You begin to see the narrative not as a march from clothed to unclothed, from modesty to freedom, but as a series of loops. Over time, people have always been circling the same questions. What do I need to feel safe in the dark? What is my body really when no one is looking? Do I protect it, display it, let it go? The answers shift with age, with place, with who shares your bed or doesn't, with the temperature outside, the mood of your own skin, the weight of memory. You might wear flannel one night, silk the next, nothing the night after that. And none of those choices define you, but all of them say something. You're walking now through a modern apartment. Middle floor, wide windows, small bookshelves heavy with used novels. The person here owns both a carefully folded drawer of pyjamas and a drawer left half empty. For nights they wear nothing. They move between the two without fanfare. There's no ritual, no shame, no pride, just rhythm. This is the new inheritance, choice. Not unlimited, not free from culture or conditioning, but wide enough to let the sleeper decide. Nightwear today is a reflection of that quiet autonomy. No longer a symbol of morality, not always a fashion statement, but a small act of self-direction. And still, the past presses gently at the edge. A woman wears her grandmother's nightdress, lace at the cuffs, yellowed slightly with time. She's never seen her grandmother sleep, not really, but she wonders now, did she wear this because she loved it, or because she was told to? A man folds away his monogrammed pyjamas and sleeps in boxer briefs. He does not know that, a century ago, that would be scandalous. He only knows that this is what lets him feel like himself. You pass into a hotel room now, neutral decor, anonymous bedding. Two strangers have met here. They don't know each other's histories, but they undress, fully, partially, not at all, and lie down beside each other. Not in lust, necessarily, just in mutual quiet. One wears a t-shirt, the other nothing. They speak softly, and then not at all. What they wear to sleep doesn't define their closeness. It reflects their comfort. Across the globe you sense the variety. In hot countries, naked sleep is often common. In colder regions, practical. In conservative homes, rare. In queer spaces, political. In some cultures, entirely ordinary. In others, almost radical. But always it rests against the same human truth. The body needs rest. It needs shelter. And in that shelter, it either hides or reveals itself. Not all sleepers choose. Some wear what they must. What they were raised to believe is proper. What their partner prefers. What their culture permits. Some undress each night with defiance. Some undress without noticing. All of them are part of the same fabric. You've seen that fabric grow from animal skin to silk, from sackcloth to bamboo blend loungewear. You've seen it stiffen into uniformity, then soften into suggestion. The nightgown is still here, yes. The sleep cap too, though now it's for curls, not modesty. The pyjamas, the boxer shorts, the oversized hoodie that smells like someone else. All of it means something. All of it means you are still part of a long story. And nakedness, it has always been part of it. Not the absence of culture, but a thread in it. A thread too often buried, burned, or quietly stepped over. Now recovered, not for judgment, not even for praise, but for recognition. You prepare to enter the final rooms now. Not eras, not centuries, but reflections. Intimate ones. The kind that don't belong to any single age. Because the final part of this story is not historical. It's personal. It belongs to you, to the sleeper, to the moment just before sleep, when no one else is watching, and you decide, again, what to wear. Or not. And why. You're in a room now with no time at all. The hallway behind you has vanished. There are no doors, no labels, no centuries ticking on the walls. This place is not historical, not cultural, not medical. It's something smaller, something quieter. It's a room just like yours. The lights are low, not candlelight, not fire, not fluorescent, just low. The temperature is set the way you like it. The hum in the air is familiar. You recognise the shape of the bed, the feel of the pillow, the way the weight of the blanket cups your body from above. This place is you, only softer, stilled, waiting. And now, the choice is near. The question rises, not in words, not aloud, but in that internal movement, that reflex of fingers at a waistband, of arms crossing to pull off a shirt. Do you leave the fabric on tonight? Do you let it go? Do you need it? Do you want it? This choice, which feels small, echoes with everything you've walked through. You remember the monks who kept their robes on, even in sleep, afraid to meet God bare. You remember the woman in the Art Deco boudoir, choosing silk for herself, not for anyone else. You remember the Roman noble, unashamed, warm from wine and open shutters. The medieval farmer curled beside his wife in a scratchy shift, not out of virtue, but survival. The factory worker who slept in the same clothes he worked in. The 21st century woman with blackout curtains, who wears nothing to bed because it lets her feel like her body belongs to her again. And you remember the cave, the heat of the fire, the moment before cloth, before shame, when the body knew only that it was tired and the earth was cool, and the stars were watching but had no judgment to give. All of them live inside this one gesture, this one moment before sleep, and now your fingers move again. You undress, or you don't. You choose, or you don't. Maybe tonight it's softness you want, a flannel shirt that smells like someone you love. Or maybe it's the absence of everything. No seams, no waistband, just skin and sheet and sleep. The choice may be instinct, or ritual, or habit, or rebellion. But whatever it is yours now. No rule remains, no gaze lingers. The historians have gone to bed. The etiquette books are closed. The sleep studies are filed away. There is no sermon here, no spotlight, no chart, only you, and the body you carry through the world, so you lie back, however dressed, however bare, and you are part of the story. Not the end of it, not the culmination, just one thread, woven in. And tomorrow night the question will return again, gentle, waiting, because sleep is not only about restoration. It is where the world releases you, and where you decide how close to your own skin you want to be. The walls of this room are soft now, almost invisible, made of memory rather than material. The air is still. You're no longer walking through eras. You're seated quietly somewhere inside yourself. But all around you are echoes of people who have slept before you, in ways both like and unlike your own. You begin to feel them now, not as historical figures, but as family. The sleepwear you wear, or don't, was not invented in a vacuum. It was shown to you, taught, or refused. We inherit our nights. You think back. Maybe your parents wore pyjamas, matching sets. Maybe your father always slept in a t-shirt and socks, even in summer. Maybe your mother folded her nightgown at the foot of the bed before turning out the light. Or perhaps they both slept fully clothed, or barely at all, or in separate beds. Perhaps it wasn't spoken about. Most often, it isn't. Sleep is rarely taught, and yet we learn it. From the creak of a hallway floorboard at midnight, from the smell of detergent on a favourite nightshirt. from the way someone knocks before entering a room after dusk, from what we were told not to wear, not to reveal, or from how no one said anything at all. You enter a childhood room now, small, cramped, books everywhere. A dim lamp burns on a dresser. The child in bed wears long cotton pyjamas, fleece with patterns, warm. But already they pull at the waistband in sleep. Already their legs seek the cool part of the sheet. They don't know the word for it yet. But their body remembers something older than rules. And elsewhere a different child, raised in a warmer climate or a warmer house, sleeps in just underwear, or a tank top, or nothing. It's not rebellious. It's not remarkable. It's simply normal here, and when they grow, they will carry that normalcy with them, unless it's taken, unless they're told to hide. We carry these unspoken scripts forward, often without knowing. You see now a teenager folding their clothes at night, setting out pyjamas they don't love, but must wear. They share a room, or live in a house where nakedness is not just discouraged, but feared. You see another teen, one who locks their door tightly, undressing quietly beneath blankets, craving that second of freedom before sleep takes them. And you see yet another, living alone for the first time, 22 perhaps, or 35. They close their door, turn off their phone, they take off their shirt and pause. No one will see them. There's no one to explain it to. The air against their skin is unfamiliar, but not wrong. They try it, just once. Sleep bare. The next night, maybe they do it again, and a habit begins, not out of rebellion, but out of rediscovery. You realise now that for all our medical charts, all our etiquette guides and linens and layers, the way we sleep is learned like a language, through gesture, silence, imitation, and longing. Some people never sleep naked, and it's not shame, it's comfort, it's pattern. They feel better wrapped, protected. The cotton nightgown passed down, the flannel shirt that belonged to a father, the blanket they still tuck under their chin. Others sleep without clothing not because they were told to, but because slowly their body taught them. Piece by piece, fabric by fabric, what wasn't needed anymore. And there are those for whom naked sleep is neither habitual nor occasional, but imagined, dreamed of, something they hope one day to try, in a room of their own, in a skin they feel safe in. You begin to see how deeply sleep is bound to belonging, not to someone else, but to place, to comfort, to self. We do not often question what we wear to bed because the answers are tangled, woven through memory, modesty, mood, family, freedom, trauma, heat, desire, space. But tonight, you're allowed to ask, what have you inherited, and what have you chosen, and how different are those things, really? You're not at the end of the story yet. There are more layers still. Intimacy, trust, and what it means to share a bed with someone else, clothed or not. But here, in this in-between room, you're allowed to rest for a moment. Not sleep yet, just reflect. Because the night is not a blank canvas, it is a tapestry, and you, wrapped or bare, flannel or skin, are part of its pattern. The air is warmer now, not from fire or climate, but from nearness. You step into a room that is shaped by two bodies instead of one, a shared bed, a shared night. The light is low, the sheets are ruffled. You feel the residual heat of two sets of limbs, a familiar scent woven into the pillows, shampoo, skin, sleep itself. This is not the solitary sleeper's world anymore. This is the room where touch matters. This part of the story is not about sleepwear alone, but about what it means to sleep beside someone, and how nakedness, when invited into that space, changes its meaning. It begins with trust. You see them, two figures lying close. A couple, not new, not old. The kind of familiarity that no longer rehearses intimacy but lives inside it. One is completely bare. The other wears something soft and minimal, a pair of shorts, a thin camisole. They move easily around each other, not seeking contact every second, but not avoiding it either. A hand drifts across a hip. A leg shifts over another. The naked skin between them is not shocking. It is, somehow, background. And yet, for many, it doesn't start this way. The first time two people sleep beside each other naked, truly sleep, not just touch, not just passion, is often tentative. The negotiation, not always spoken, but deeply felt. There are pauses, questions. Do they mind? Do I feel exposed? Is this too much? Because while the body might be welcome in desire, it becomes different in sleep. Sleep requires surrender. Nakedness, then, becomes not just physical openness, but vulnerability after intention. Not the strip of anticipation, but the stillness after, and to remain bare through that stillness. That says something, or it can. You walk through a series of beds, some large, some small, a hotel room in Prague, a beach house in Cape Town, a twin mattress in a cramped London flat. The same rhythm repeats. Two bodies learning how to lie beside one another when the world goes quiet. Sometimes they both undress completely, not from habit but from hunger for closeness, not necessarily erotic, just real, just skin remembering skin. Sometimes only one undresses. The other stays wrapped in cotton, silk, or even sweats, not out of rejection, but because this is how they feel safe, and the naked one understands. They adjust. They let their skin speak without needing to be mirrored. There is no rule. There never has been. Some couples sleep naked every night. It's ritual, comfort, ease. For others, it's only for special occasions or hot summer evenings, or never at all. Their intimacy lives elsewhere, in words, or in cooking, or in morning routines. The presence or absence of fabric doesn't measure their closeness. But when it's chosen freely, with care, it becomes one of many languages between them. You see now the quiet power of the shared bed. It's not just about comfort or convenience. It is one of the last places in modern life where bodies remain truly uncurated. Not dressed, not styled, not staged, just present. Unfiltered by mirrors or cameras, lit only by whatever moonlight makes it through the blinds. And in that space, the decision to sleep naked is not only about the self, it's about the person beside you. Are you offering the warmth of your body as invitation? Are you withholding it out of fear, or simply because the fabric feels good? Is nakedness, between you, a normal part of rest, or a threshold rarely crossed? And what happens when the dynamic shifts? You pass into a room where one half of the bed is rumpled and the other half smooth. Someone has left, or is away, or is no longer coming back. The person who remains undresses with hesitation now. They used to sleep naked when someone else was there. Now, alone again, they're unsure. Is it worth it? Will it feel good? Or just strange? They do it anyway. Slide into the sheets, unclothed. Not for anyone else. Just to remember that the bed still belongs to them. That their body is not waiting for permission. In another room, a couple lies back to back. Clothed. Distant. The space between them isn't just physical. It's emotional. They used to sleep skin to skin, but lately it feels too raw, too much. The night has become a wall, the body a secret again. The fabric between them is not just textile, it's boundary. You see now that naked sleep in shared beds is not just about comfort, or temperature, or preference. It is about the story between two people, moment to moment, night to night. One night, you sleep wrapped tight, your back turned. The next, you roll over, bare, and press yourself into another's warmth. The sleepwear doesn't say everything, but it always says something, and for those who sleep beside no one at all, naked sleep can become a declaration of self-sufficiency, or a whisper of loneliness, or a celebration of solitude. There is no one answer, there never was. But the question, what do I wear to bed and why, deepens when someone else shares your sheets. And in the next part of this long, quiet story, you'll return again to solitude, to the bed as a mirror, to the moment where naked sleep becomes not just a preference, but a kind of home. The room is smaller now, quieter. It holds only one pillow, one body, one breath. You're no longer walking through couples, customs, climates, or codes. You're here in the middle of solitude, true solitude. Not loneliness, not waiting, but the full presence of the self. And in this room, the question of sleepwear shifts again. You lie in a bed, your bed, or one much like it. There are no eyes watching, no one else's expectations, no partner's hand to brush against your thigh, no judgment, no praise, just you, and what you choose to do with your body when the day releases you. Some people discover naked sleep here for the first time, not through science, not through rebellion, not because someone else suggested it, but simply because the room was quiet enough to hear the body say, "I want to be free," and some resist it. The feeling is strange, too raw, too loose. The skin feels suddenly loud. The absence of fabric is not relief, but exposure. Even alone, it feels as though someone is watching. Some echo of upbringing, some whisper of shame, still curled in the corners of the mind. You see a person folding their clothes before bed, alone, not performing. They place their shirt carefully on the chair, their socks into a drawer. They hesitate with the last layer, undergarments or shorts. They glance toward the window, though the curtains are closed. They take a breath and decide, tonight, to leave them on. Or maybe, for the first time, to take them off. It's not a performance. It's not a trend. It's a reckoning. Because nakedness, in solitude, reveals not only skin, but truth. How do you feel about the body you inhabit when no one is asking you to perform it? What is the private relationship between you and your own shape? Do you allow softness? Do you claim stillness? Or are there ghosts in the sheets? Old words, old glances, old bruises you've tried to forget. You pass into a different room. Here, the body's older. The mirror shows new lines, new gravity. This person has spent decades with themselves. Decades dressing, undressing and redressing their body for others, for lovers, for children, for care. But in this moment, at the end of the day, they undress slowly, with reverence. Not to look sexy, not to feel young, but to feel real. They climb into bed with nothing on, not because they always have, but because now they can. Nakedness is not shocking anymore. It is not a question of should. It is simply a softness they've earned, one they no longer feel the need to explain. Elsewhere, a younger body lies curled in flannel. They've tried sleeping naked, but it never felt right, and that too is freedom. There's no hierarchy here, no moral value in cotton or in skin, only honesty. The body asks to be cared for, in the way that this body prefers. The bed becomes a mirror not in the way it reflects light, but in how it reflects choice. Each night, a small answer. Each layer of cloth, or lack thereof, a quiet declaration. I want to feel protected. I want to feel unbound. I want to remember. I want to forget. I want to be with myself. I want to disappear. None of it is wrong. And the naked sleeper, when truly alone, does not sleep like the ancient Romans, or the Enlightenment libertines, or the content creators of the digital age. They sleep like someone who has stopped asking for permission. They sleep like the cave dwellers once did, not because they were proud of it, not because they were told, but because it was what the body knew. You remain in this room a little longer, not to make a choice, but to notice that you have one. To remember that sleep is not a costume you wear, but a state you enter. And whether you enter it wrapped in thread or bare to the breeze, the important thing is that you are entering it on your own terms. In the next part of the story, you'll begin to pull those threads together, fabric, history, the private and the public, into the question we've been circling all along. Why do we still wonder whether people in the past slept naked? When the real question is why it still matters today, you're almost there. The story is nearly whole. The room dissolves once again, not into another century or style or continent, but into an open space made of thoughts that never get said aloud. The kind that surface as you lie still before sleep. The kind you don't post, don't document, but feel. You've walked through time. You've seen the naked sleeper in caves and courts, in monasteries and factories, in science labs and Instagram posts. You've seen them judged, forgotten, measured, romanticized, ignored, studied, shamed and freed. So why is it still a question? Did people in the past sleep naked? Why does it matter? Because the question isn't really about history. Not anymore. It's about you, and what it means to live in a body. Because sleep is the only time of day when we stop performing. Stop deciding how we want to appear. Stop controlling how we are seen. In sleep we are what we are, soft, vulnerable, subconscious, and that terrifies us. So we wrap ourselves in cloth, in ritual, in habit, in inherited rules. We wrap ourselves to feel safe, to feel correct, to feel invisible, or visible in a way we choose. But what if you don't wrap at all? The naked sleeper becomes a symbol, a question. Am I allowed to exist in this body without filter or fabric? Am I safe like this? Do I belong like this? Can I rest without armour? That's what the question has always been about. In the ancient world, the naked sleeper was ease, natural, unguarded, logical. In the medieval world, they were sinful, frightening, improper. In the Enlightenment, elegant when framed, dangerous when not. In the industrial world, impractical, immodest. In the modern world, they are complicated. The naked sleeper is not always the liberated one. Sometimes they're the one with a locked door. Sometimes they're the one healing from what others have told them their body should be. Sometimes they're reclaiming. Sometimes they're just hot. But the image of a person, entirely unclothed, entering sleep, is still powerful. It still stirs something in us. Wonder, envy, discomfort, aspiration. Because the naked sleeper has nothing left to hide. And for most of us, that's terrifying. You begin to see that nakedness in sleep has never been the point. It's a lens. It shows us how we've been taught to see ourselves, what we think our bodies are for, how much distance exists between who we are alone and who we are with others, what we've kept, what we've inherited, what we've left behind. You return to one of the first rooms. A linen nightshirt hangs by a hearth. You pass it. Another room, embroidered silk on a hanger. You pass that too. Wool, flannel, lace, boxes, breathable bamboo blends. You pass all of them. They're not wrong. They're not outdated. They're just one layer of the story. You come, finally, to a doorway that has no door. Just an opening. No sign, no invitation, no warning. It's your room. Tonight. Right now. You stand there for a moment, not to decide whether or not to undress, but to recognise that you can. To understand that no matter what you wear, or don't, when you lie down to sleep, you're stepping into the long layered legacy of all who came before you. Not as a replica, but as a continuation. A small echo in a very large, very soft silence. Sleep, after all, is not a historical act. It's a human one. And what you wear into it is one of the few places left in life that belongs entirely to you. In the next part you will enter the final rooms, not of history but of archetype. The mother, the soldier, the poet, the stranger, the ways we all sleep and how the body, clothed or bare, remains the quiet narrator of it all. You're almost there. Just a few more layers to go. You step now into a room that doesn't belong to a time or even a person, but to an idea, a form, a shape that exists in story after story, room after room. This is where the naked sleeper becomes not a fact, not a choice, not a statistic, but a symbol that fits many skins, not abstract, but recognisable. You walk slowly. Each room opens without effort, and each one contains someone you've met before, or might have been, or are. The mother is first. The bed is wide, the sheets well worn. A muslin gown is draped on the edge, simple, thin, pulled on quickly if needed. But tonight, she sleeps without it. The door is closed. The baby monitor hums softly on the bedside table. Her shoulders are bare. The part of her day that belonged to everyone else is finally over, and in this small, unobserved window her body is hers again. For no one. For nothing. Just for rest. There is no audience. No mirror. Only breath. Only skin against cool sheets. She doesn't sleep naked every night, but tonight it's necessary. The soldier is next. Their room is Spartan. The bed neat. A folded t-shirt on the chair. Regulation habits cling, even off duty. Naked sleep for them is rare. Too exposed. Too uncontrolled. But now, home, after months away, they've undressed completely for the first time in weeks. It feels strange. Not indulgent, but uncertain. They lie still, as if waiting for something to go wrong. But the blanket doesn't fall. No orders come. Eventually their body softens. The nakedness, instead of vulnerability, becomes a return. To the body. To being alive in it. Then comes the poet. This room is a tangle. Books on the floor, mismatched pillows, incense not fully extinguished. Here, naked sleep is not rare. It's ritual. A shedding of all the constraints of daytime selfhood. The poet sleeps like someone falling into language, without punctuation. They often wake with a leg twisted in the sheets, a thought caught behind their teeth, a poem already forming. To them, sleepwear would interrupt something. The skin is a pen. The bed is the page. Now, the stranger. You don't know them. You're not even sure if they're real. Their room could be a hotel or a borrowed flat or an overnight train. They have nothing with them but a bag and a toothbrush. No pyjamas, no nightgown, no history, and so they undress, without thought, without weight. They sleep naked not because they always do, but because tonight they can. There is something holy in the way a stranger sheds their clothing in a strange room. The body becomes anonymous, unlabelled, free. And now, finally, the room of the watcher, the one who does not yet sleep naked, but wonders about it, wants to, maybe has, maybe once, maybe never dared. This room is full of questions, not conclusions. What will it feel like? Will I still feel like me? What does it say if I do? This is the room that echoes the question we began with. Did people in the past sleep naked? But here, it takes on its final form. Can I? Not always. Not every night. But tonight. You begin to see that these archetypes are not separate from you. They are layers, seasons, versions. You might be the soldier in winter, the poet in summer, the stranger in a borrowed room, the mother, the moment the door clicks shut, the watcher still wondering. You do not have to choose. You do not have to explain. The naked sleeper lives in all of them, and so you keep walking, past identity, past narrative, until you reach a final threshold, not a door, not a wall, just a moment, where sleep is close, and the body is whole, and you know, whether clothed or bare, you're exactly as many people before you have been, a creature curling into night, seeking silence, and finding it. This room has no walls, no furniture, not even a bed. It is shaped by breath, not architecture, by pulse, not plan. It is the moment just before sleep, the part where language begins to loosen, where thoughts slide sideways, and the body no longer explains itself. You are here, not centuries away, not walking anymore, just lying down. The weight of the covers, whether they are silk or wool or nothing at all, becomes irrelevant. What matters now is what remains when all layers are gone. Social, cultural, historical, literal. When your body is no longer dressing up for the day, or down for the night. It simply is. And in this moment, this breath, you lie the way the very first humans must have. Without question, without rules, without ritual, not innocent, not wild, just entirely, undeniably physical. The body is warm, the air is cooler, the sheets, if they exist, take your shape and do not protest. Nothing between your skin and the world but the hush that comes after decision and before dreams. This is not about sleepwear anymore, or nakedness, or even comfort. This is about truth. What is a body really when it stops trying? You feel your own arms resting across your chest or curled beneath your pillow. Your hips sink into the softness below. Your spine loosens. Not all the way, but enough. You have made your final choice for the night, not out of rebellion, not out of heritage, not because of etiquette or elegance, but because the body asked, and you said yes, even if it was just by not saying no. Now, you recall the entire journey not in facts or fabrics, but in feelings. The scratch of wool in a medieval house, the smooth marble floor of a Roman villa, the starch of Victorian collars, the hush of flannel in a child's bed, the slide of silk, the flicker of lace, the nothing at all, and over all of it the same sound, the breath of the sleeper, uninterrupted. Because the question was never really did people sleep naked. The question was, did they sleep? Did they rest in their bodies? Did they feel safe in themselves? And the answer, across time, through every corridor, down every hallway of history, is sometimes. Sometimes they were wrapped in linen for modesty. Sometimes they wore wool because they had no choice. Sometimes they lay unclothed in summer, by rivers, under stars. Sometimes they could not rest at all. And you, here, now, carry all of that with you. You don't need to decide whether your sleep tonight is historical or modern, whether it is sensual or practical, whether it says something or says nothing at all. Because this soft moment between wake and sleep, is older than any garment, older than cloth, older than modesty, older than shame, older than language, and in that deep, wordless quiet, your body remembers what history forgot, that it belongs to you, exactly as it is, exactly like this. You lie down, like the first time, like every time, like the last, and the story waits now only for silence. You're lying down, and now the story does not move forward. It does not look backward. It simply settles, as a blanket settles when you stop shifting beneath it. The room has no time. You're not watching. You're not being watched. You're simply a body, breathing, warm in the dark. And what you wear, or don't, does not matter anymore. Not because it is meaningless, but because its meaning has dissolved into your skin. There is no difference now between cloth and self, between modesty and memory, between nakedness and need. Only texture, only weight, or the absence of it. You feel the air touch your arms, your thighs, your chest. Or maybe you feel the soft pressure of cotton wrapped around you. Maybe both. Maybe neither. Maybe you've stopped thinking about it entirely. This is the moment when choice ends, when sleep stops being a decision and becomes a current pulling you under, softly, silently. No one sees the body here, not even you. Your awareness peels away from shape and surface. It forgets the lines, the curves, the boundaries. It forgets what it wore to bed. And in this forgetting, there is something like forgiveness. Because even the most practiced sleeper carries weight. The weight of posture, of image, of expectation, the shape you hold for others, even when the lights are off. But not here. Here, there are no angles, no edges, no names. You're not wife or worker or child or host. You're not man or woman or watched or watching. You're only the quiet between heartbeats. Naked, maybe, but not exposed, because exposure needs a gaze, and you have let it go. This moment, this exact one, right now, is what every sleeper in history passed through, no matter what they wore. The letting go, a Roman on a mosaic floor, a monk beneath rough wool, a mother in a cotton nightgown, a poet on a mattress of metaphors, a stranger in borrowed sheets. All of them reach this place, this nothing, this stillness that holds everything. And you are here now, among them, not because you studied them or followed them, but because your body has done what theirs did. It has softened, it has quieted, it has agreed, without words, to lie still. You're not making a statement anymore. You're not answering a question. You're not even listening. You're only drifting. And in that drift, the last fragments of the story begin to float apart, not vanish but rise like lint in morning light. The first sleep, the first cloth, the first fear, the first shame, the first unburdening. You don't need to hold them. They're not yours to carry. They were only the trail, and you have arrived. In the next part, the second to last, you will feel the story recede around you, not as an ending but as a closing of eyes. The closing of a door, not final, just quiet, just enough, almost gone. The air, if it could be heard, would be a hush, not silence, but softer than that. A silence that's been folded 1,000 times until it no longer even sounds like absence, just a kind of resting hum beneath your thoughts. This is where words begin to step back, no longer leading you but walking behind, a few paces slower than your breath. The body is no longer listening to language, it has begun to listen to itself. Your limbs, whether wrapped in flannel or fully exposed to the air, are no longer distinct in your mind. They are simply there, settled in the cool geometry of the bed. There is no sensation of correctness, no tension of having made the right or wrong choice. You have chosen, or your body chose for you, or you didn't need to choose at all. You're not dressed for judgment now. You're not dressed for interpretation. You're not even dressed for rest. You're just here. And the story that brought you to this place, it does not conclude. It does not resolve. It simply loosens, like a drawstring, like a collar, like a sleeve falling from a shoulder. The facts blur. The scenes fade. The characters fold back into the night. The mother, the monk, the lover, the scientist, the child, the stranger. They do not wave goodbye. They do not need to. They were never destinations. They were only waypoints in the long, slow path to now, to you, in this bed, in this shape, in this moment. You remember, vaguely, that this all started with a question, something academic, slightly cheeky, something you could imagine printed on a thumbnail beneath a curious title. Did people in the past sleep naked? And you remember how it pulled you in, like a thread hanging from a sleeve. You tugged gently, and instead of a single answer, the whole garment of sleep began to unravel in your hands, layer after layer of custom and code and comfort, stitched with fear, mended with memory, folded and refolded through generations. Now that garment lies beside you, or perhaps it was never real. Perhaps it only existed in the stories we told ourselves about how we were supposed to appear, even when no one was looking. Now, no one is looking, and you are no longer even looking at yourself. The thoughts come slower now, each one a little less complete than the last. A word becomes a feeling becomes a warmth becomes nothing. This is not sleep yet, but it is the doorway to it. You're not asked to open it, you're only asked to be here. The story will not tuck you in. It will not tell you what to wear, or what not to. It will not finish with a final sentence, because stories do not fall asleep. People do, and you are almost there. One more part, a closing breath, a final, gentle letting go. There is no room anymore, no walls, no bed, no nightstand, no distinction between where you are and where you aren't. You have gone past the edges of furniture, of time, of identity. The floor beneath you might be cotton, or wool, or bare earth, or nothing at all. You don't remember anymore. That is not a loss. That is not confusion. That is the arrival. You're no longer dressed in history. Not the wool tunic of the medieval villager, not the silk nightgown of the 1920s dreamer, not the hoodie you sometimes fall asleep in, not even your own name. You're not holding those things anymore. You are the body beneath them. There is no shame here. There is no beauty here. There is no mirror here. There is only breath, and the quiet awareness of a shape resting gently within space. Your spine no longer aligns itself against the day. Your face no longer performs. Even your thoughts are clothed less than they were. They no longer dress up as worries or plans. They move slowly now, like birds across a pale sky, disappearing into the edges. This is not sleep, not yet, but it is closer than the skin. You are not asleep, but you're no longer telling yourself how to be. And the body, this quiet, aching, unremarkable body, becomes something lighter than flesh. The question of nakedness evaporates. It becomes irrelevant, not because it never mattered, but because it only ever mattered while you were awake enough to ask. Now, all of it loosens. The word, the rule, the weight, the thread. You're still here, but you're not holding on to anything, not even the story, especially not the story. You let it drift behind you, like the fabric of a robe unfastened at the shoulders. You do not mourn it. You do not cling. It was never meant to stay wrapped around you forever. It brought you here. And now, at last, it too can rest. There is only one part left. Not a part, really. Not a sentence. Only the breath that follows. The one where sleep is no longer a story, but the space where the story ends. There is no more walking. There is no more listening. There is no more choosing, remembering, wondering. You have come to the place where words no longer carry weight, not because they are empty, but because you have carried them far enough. They are folded now, quiet as cloth, pressed down like linen between palms, set aside. The story does not say goodnight. It does not need to. You are past the moment of being told anything. There is no curiosity left, only calm. Only the body, suspended, not floating, not falling, just being. Your thoughts no longer ask questions. They do not chase endings. They do not even finish their own sentences. The body is there, yes, but without its commentary, without its history, without its name. Perhaps you are wearing something, perhaps not. You've forgotten. Not in a way that leaves you lost, but in a way that means you have, at last, let go. Of thread, of symbol, of posture, of being seen, of needing to see yourself. There is nothing between your skin and sleep now, no story, no self, just breath, soft and even, just warmth, heavy and quiet, just the final familiar gravity of rest pulling everything down, gently. Your limbs are no longer preparing for tomorrow. Your eyes are not closed in anticipation. They are simply closed. And the last part of the story, the one no one hears, it's happening now. You won't notice when it does. You won't remember the last sentence. That is how it's always meant to be. Because long before thread and cloth, long before shame and shape and sleepwear, there was only this, a body, the dark, and the deep, generous silence of sleep. It is yours now. Go.